All right, welcome back to another episode of the Strive Show, and this week we are talking about birth trauma. Welcome to the Strive Show. I'm Dr. Jake Grinaker, and together with the amazing doctors at Strive Chiropractic, our phenomenal team, and some extraordinary guests along the way, we will be in the pursuit of truth in all things health, life, and family. We believe you not only can handle the truth, you deserve it. Enjoy the show. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Strive Show, and this week we are talking about one that we actually talk about all the time when we are seeing babies and little ones in here, and that's really birth trauma.
Yep.
And I think it's important before we dive into the effects and what it's causing and all those kind of things, is just what is it? Because I think a lot of times when parents hear birth trauma and that kind of thing, they think it's has to be like a broken collarbone,
right.
or it has to be some crazy thing that happens with births, and maybe not realize that it's most births that we're seeing that for.
Yeah, I mean, and it's, if like I've got 4 kids,
Yep.
You've got 4 kids, like seeing that, being in the delivery room and actually seeing firsthand the actual trauma that comes with it, whether it's natural or C-section,
Yep.
like there's a lot going on.
There's a lot.
A lot going on. Yeah.
And I think the research will show that even the most, quote, normal natural delivery, there's about 60 to 80 pounds of axial traction or pulling that occurs on a baby's head during delivery. And then they get to the point of their shoulders and they're twisted or turned to get the rest of the way through.
Yep.
And I always like to reference that in a couple different ways. Number one, it's, imagine, you taking your 7-pound, 8-pound baby, and I were to attach 80 pounds to their waist and pick it up by the head. You would tackle us, which you should.
For sure.
But that's in reference, that's what we're talking about. And it's nothing against the birth providers and the OBs and the midwives and that kind of stuff. The babies have to get out.
Yeah.
It's nothing, there's no pointing fingers. They have to get out of here. But what we do after they get out of here is a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, they're just doing their job. Right?
Yes,
I mean,
100%.
It's their job to get them out, and then it kind of turns into our job to make sure
sure they're good. Yeah,
they're good, and fix some of the stuff that went on.
Yeah. And really going back to that, like those numbers are on a normal, natural, zero intervention birth. You
Right.
talk about the need of vacuum, forceps, if they have cord, relapse cord or cord issues around their neck, or long labor times, anything like that, it's big. And actually the numbers for C-section are higher, which most dads or people who don't have kids understand, but moms who've had a C-section understand, because, they're not, cutting a huge part and lifting the baby out. It's a pretty relatively small incision.
Yep.
And a lot of times moms can feel their body moving around the table.
Yeah.
That's just from the baby's head as they're getting it out.
Yeah.
It's a much higher, pounds of pull that happens with a C-section even than a vaginal delivery.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're pulling against gravity too,
Yep.
right? I mean,
Yep.
it's the where they're pulling them out from isn't very big.
It's pretty small.
And to try and get that head through there and then pull the rest of them out, like it's pretty intense for sure.
So we view every birth as birth trauma,
Yeah.
right? Every birth is a birth trauma. Every baby needs to get checked after they're born for that reason. But really, how it shows up is something to where, again, if we back up, every baby should be checked. Every baby has birth trauma. However, when we're talking about it with parents and they're like signs of birth trauma or signs that their baby is whatever, there's a couple things that we see. Number one being a baby that's very rigid.
Yep.
It's just that rigidity of their body. They don't relax well. It just seems like they're uncomfortable a lot.
I was gonna say, you just took the words right out of my mouth. Like they just feel and look and seem like they're just uncomfortable, and they are, right? I mean, they can't communicate with us, but we can pick up on those cues, and some of those. One of the first ones is just they're just rigid and tight rigid. And uncomfortable.
Yeah,
for sure.
Sometimes we'll see it in head preference as another one,
Yep.
like, they won't turn this other way, or they always sleep a certain way, or they're not looking back a certain way, which eventually will show up as a flat spot and all these different kinds of things. But that is a sign of birth trauma. They had some trauma in their neck as they're coming out, and they have a preference on one side versus the other.
Yeah, I mean, other things you see too is, the reflux, the gassy, the colic, all that stuff is related to that birth trauma and what it does to, babies' nervous systems when they first come into the world.
Yeah.
So
I love that. And then that's what we look at and talk a lot about is, yes, we have these symptoms that Brian just mentioned too of colic, rigid, all the things, but really what they all are is signs that the little baby's in fight or flight.
Yeah.
And when you're in fight or flight, all you think about is fighting or running, and the whole body in the rest and digest and relax shuts down.
Yep.
So it shows up in these ways.
For sure. And it's, that sympathetic nervous system response that we get with that. And yeah, they get stuck in that state. I mean, we see it in adults all the time too. And it's no different with the babies. Like they just, they get stuck in that fight or flight, and we need to kind of, like we talk about sometimes, get that teeter-totter to balance, right? So.
Yeah, and the great thing about this is that even the babies that we take in that had a lot of this birth trauma and their scans are lit up and they got tons of stuff going on, if we're seeing them early, in this process, in those first couple weeks to first couple months of life, the problem hasn't been there that long.
Right.
It's like, it may be awful, but it's not like they've been at a computer for 25 years, or been working construction. The problem is relatively new, and it becomes much easier to correct.
Absolutely. Like that's I think one of the best things about working with newborns and babies is the fact that they haven't been stuck in this state for so long, and they generally respond really well, and they respond much quicker than like you said, the guy that's been sitting at his desk for 30 years, doing construction for 25 years. So.
Yeah, I love it when babies come in. They're not fighting them and eating McDonald's for 20 years. They haven't been dealing with stress and trauma and all this kind of thing. It's literally it's pretty straightforward when they come in, which is great.
Yeah.
Brian and I laugh too. It's like, man, if we could see babies all day, we'd seem like absolute heroes because they get better so fast.
Yeah.
Like so fast they're getting better. Like I wish adults got better that fast. But
absolutely.
But they don't.
When they do come in and they start to get better, and now they're, they're smiling more. They're, they're more engaged, and seeing a baby come in that you start to notice it's getting better, like it literally just kind of makes your day. Right?
Yeah,
it's awesome.
I was just thinking of one just earlier this week that the first few times I saw him was rigid and angry and didn't even like being laid on the table. And I walked by the room yesterday and this little baby was belly laughing at Brian. Like I didn't want to screw it up, and ruin the moment, but I just walked by and it was just so funny to hear this baby belly laughing. But that's what's great is usually within a few weeks or sometimes even a few visits, these babies, you can just see that rigidity start to melt away. You can see, oh my gosh, their digestion's working better, and their head's turning both ways, and it happens so fast. And I guess that's my biggest thing to any parents out there watching, or if you have any loved ones that are dealing with this, birth trauma stuff, is that it is so quick to get your baby back. Like it does not take very long to take this uncomfortable, rigid, angry baby, into a pretty happy-go-lucky, sleep well, poop well, eat well baby. It doesn't take very long.
No, it doesn't. And it's fun too. You talk about the rigidity, and as you start to adjust these babies the first couple times, right? And you can just feel them, when you get that nervous system back to being normal, you can just I describe it to the parents as like, you just kind of feel them melt.
Yeah.
Right? Because they'll just like that, they just relax, and it's just like they take this breath and they're just like, ugh.
And I love with babies too, there's no placebo effect, there's no whatever, like they're just better or they're not, but I love that melt terminology. You just adjust them and they'll just melt under your fingers, like blow out a diaper and then fall asleep. It's like, I think it's working.
What a day.
What we're doing. What a day. Oh, that's funny. And the other great thing about babies at that age too, it's just very little pressure. We talk about like, some people think about like adjusting like an adult, like, oh my gosh, what do you do to a baby? Like the most pressure we're using is like checking the ripeness of a tomato. Or I always say, like, if you were to push on your eyeball until it hurts, like we're not even going that hard. No. So it's very, very gentle. A lot of times they stay asleep if they're sleeping through the adjustment. When they're rigid and angry, they're usually not sleeping very well, or they're mad anyway. But it doesn't really take a lot. Very little pressure. Very quick adjustments. It's pretty simple.
Sometimes I'll tell parents, I'm like, it's actually going to look like I'm not really doing a lot, but I'm like, I am. Trust me. But it doesn't look like it. But I am. So
no, it's funny. Usually the question we'll get is like, oh, are you going to start yet? I'm like, oh, we're done. It's pretty simple and pretty easy that way. So if this kind of struck a chord, or if you're like, man, that really describes my baby, I didn't know that's what it was. I didn't know really it was this birth trauma thing. Or you have a friend, a coworker, a loved one, whatever. Send them this episode. Let them know. We're always here, happy to help. You can always reach out, our website, text, email, however want to get a hold of us. We'd love to get your baby checked out and get him started on a better path. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Get more smiling, laughing babies.
Yeah, less rigidity, more smiling, happy babies.
Right,
I would love it.
sure.
So, well, thanks guys for tuning in to this episode of the Strive Show. We can't wait to come back next week, and we'll see what we talk about then. So
sounds good.
All right, take care, guys. Thanks for tuning into The Strive Show. Whether you are watching this on YouTube or listening to the podcast on your favorite platform, make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you found value in today's episode, please share it with a loved one. We would be honored. Thanks and have a fantastic week.